Spoiler alert! If you have not yet watched the Monthly Mayhem V-Speed Phoenix Challenge yet, then do not watch this episode. There's a ton of spoilers, including this one back here. Welcome back to the Scale Builders Guild. Thanks again for watching. It's episode 18 of What's on the Bench Weekly. And if you are not familiar with What's on the Bench Weekly, it's where I take you through a bunch of projects, things that I'm working on, maybe some new stuff. This week is all new. Well, mostly. Especially if you've just watched Monthly Mayhem and you want to get a good rundown of the vehicle in a short burst rather than an hour-long video. This is the place to be. This is a special episode and one that I'm pretty proud to present because this truck is awesome. I don't care if it won or lost or even tied. I'm just happy with the final result. This used to be a Vanquish VS410 Phoenix straight axle kit. And there are still some elements of it. You can see it, sort of, mostly in the body. That's the main giveaway. This truck was designed to be a speed run car. Josh and I have done this before. We've done it with the Deadbolt. We did it with the TRX-6 with limited success on my end. But the challenge was always the same. Take a truck that wasn't designed to go fast and make it go fast. And this one is no different in that regard. It's exactly the same challenge. There's a lot of differences here. I have learned a lot over the last two speedrun challenges, and I think that I've applied everything that I've learned into this Phoenix. And I'm pretty chuffed with myself, if I do say so myself. Allow myself to introduce myself. I'm going to try to keep this as quick and as light as possible, but the goal of this was to make this car go as fast as possible, and we invited 6 other YouTubers to participate along with us. I'll be sure to put links down below to all of their channels, but Turks and Jerps, West Desert Wheeler, RC Review, K-Pop RC, CCXRC, and Tom Lee RC all participated along with myself and Josh from Harley Designs. The idea, get these cars to go fast. There were a bunch of rules, which I will also share a link to. I'm not going to share them with you again now. There's too many things to go over and it would eat up too much time. But rest assured, most of us stuck to those rules. And this car is the result. There's a lot of differences though. And I think we'll start on the outside because that's where this truck kind of sits right now. Lots of carbon fiber was used. Some of it from Send Cut Send. Some of it from my own brain and hands, which is pretty amazing. I was able to design and manufacture my own laid carbon fiber. In some cases, it was also pressure treated carbon fiber. This is 2 layers of carbon fiber fabric pressed into a mold, which I still have somewhere. Pressed into this mold, actually, using a technique that Josh taught me. This is a silicone mold that goes in here. Take that out real quick. Maybe. Anyway, that's the positive of the mold, and that's what becomes that piece there. There's the negative. You put a bunch of release mold agent into this. This is 3D printed, of course. Then you add your carbon fiber and epoxy. Then you plop this back in and put the whole thing under pressure and let it sit for 24 hours. And out pops this, which is spectacular. That's carbon fiber and it's hollow and it's extremely light, which is good because the rest of the truck is not. I also did the side pods in carbon fiber. That's just laying carbon fiber fabric over a styrofoam buck that I made. Leaving the styrofoam in, you could take it out if you wanted extra lightness, but that's super mega rigid stuff and works really well as aero for this car because you need to have aerodynamics even with a crawler that you want to go fast. On the back, big Raz Schifrin inspired rear spoiler and wing setup there. Kind of looks a bit like a Batmobile, if I'm honest. It's very cool. I was really happy with how that turned out. And some aero aid there with just a sheet of Lexan to kind of help channel the air around the wing and keep that all pushed down nice and low. No real modifications to the body itself. It is still a Phoenix body. I just trimmed the front fenders off and cut holes for the 2 shock towers to poke through. Otherwise, it's a Phoenix body. not that much different. The cage on the back obviously got raised a little bit so we could get a little lower on the chassis, of course. And I mean, it is quite low on the chassis. Speaking of, let's take a look at the actual chassis, because that was one of the rules. We had to keep the Phoenix chassis rails. So it's still technically a Vanquish Phoenix underneath, albeit with a bunch of different changes. Here's where things get interesting. At the bottom here, we've got a 3mm aluminum plate from Send Cut Send. I designed and cut this through Send Cut Send, designed it at home in Fusion 360. I wanted to make this as smooth on the bottom as possible. The less air that gets trapped underneath the car, the faster it'll go. That's why I incorporated this rear diffuser. That's from an ARMA felony, I believe. It's also maybe on the infraction as well. But that really does help channel the air out from underneath and keeps the car extremely stable at speed, which I'm really, really happy about. 3mm aluminum 7075, probably a bit too much in retrospect. It is a very heavy car at 9 pounds, which probably resulted in lower speeds than I was hoping for. That said, I still got this thing going very fast, and I do encourage you to go watch the full hour-long video so you can watch the whole thing come together. That's the basic structure of the underside of the chassis and the carbon fiber. You'll also notice on the sides here, and we can pull these out, I tried to keep this as modular as possible so things could come out quite easily. So these pods come off. You can see the aluminum plates that I designed to anchor the chassis to the aluminum bottom plate. And the idea here is to have everything as solid and as rigid as possible. The more vibration, the more movement that anything has, the less likely you are to be able to go straight and fast. So there were a lot of design decisions made to make sure this was as rigid and as strong as possible of a chassis. I did stretch the wheelbase. It's a 13-inch wheelbase now, so it is substantially longer, and uses an ARMA center diff from basically any of their 6S line of vehicles as the main mode of propulsion. It is dog bones to dog bone cups on the axles. Those exist. It's still a 5mm input, so you can just attach it to a regular axle. Pretty fantastic there. Ended up with a 3850 kV brushless motor from Castle, mated to a Tekin RX-8. I originally had a lower kV Tekin Redline motor in there, but I ended up finding that it was not enough kVs. Did need to push the upper limit of what's possible with that kV of motor on 4S. 4S was our maximum. Steering duty was handled by a Reefs 299LP, a nice low profile servo, which was perfect because I did need to have that whole body lowered, and that one fit just perfect. Originally I did go for a steering on axle setup, but I found that I wasn't getting quite the performance that I wanted. There was a lot of binding, so I ended up tossing that idea, and this actually worked out quite well. In the rear, we've got a Reefs RC sway bar. Definitely helps keep this thing stable at speed. And there is also an AVC Spectrum receiver being used here too. Gyro is important in speed runs. Anybody who says otherwise is not correct, in my opinion. It's extremely important to have a good, solid, smooth run in order to get top speeds. And I'm very happy that I used a gyro, believe me. Oh, the other thing, in order to stretch that wheelbase and to get a much lower overall ride height, I did have to redesign the link mounts and the geometry for that, and I did print up my own mounts. All of the design work was done in Fusion 360, and I modeled up the whole car so I knew exactly where things were going to go. I've said in the video, and I've said before on the channel, that I'm fully joshing this competition, and that was the intention, to try to make this as much of a Josh style car as I could, and I think I got pretty close in that regard. I'm very happy with the end results. I'm even happy with the speeds that I achieved too. While I did win the viewer's choice to add another 5 miles per hour onto my final score, my final speed, I did want to shoot for as much speed as I possibly could. And I think the only thing running against me was time, battery choice, and electronic setup. I did not have enough gearing when I first started out and was kind of muddling around in the high 40s, which was not going to be enough speed. I ended up changing out pinions a number of times, and thinking that I was upping the pinion too much when it turned out to be battery voltage wasn't really enough. I didn't have enough power running through the batteries, getting to the motor, and motor was struggling to live to its full potential. So shocks were also limited to 10 mil up front and in the rear. I did change, of course, the suspension a little bit in order to make it have a little more suspension up front and a much more firm rear end. Just how I like it. Aside from that, not much else changed because there wasn't much else to change. Everything on this truck basically had been reworked in some way in order to try to extract as much speed out of it as possible. I used a lot of carbon fiber. I used a lot of aluminum. In future challenges, I would probably go with a thinner aluminum bottom plate. I don't think it needed to be this thick. That said, it did keep it nice and stable, so maybe there's a good balance there between weight and power. There will be more power added. I'm going to go to a parallel setup, get myself more amps, more voltage to push through that motor, and there will be a motor change as well. So we're going to be looking at doing a few things to change the car. I am in no way finished with it yet. I want to make this thing go faster. I really do believe that it's got the speed in it. And that's going to be my next goal. That probably will not happen before the snow flies here, so we're going to have to wait until the spring to make that happen. But overall, very pleased with what I was able to achieve. This was way beyond my usual comfort zone, and honestly, I did not think I would be able to do what I've been able to achieve. I'm really proud of my accomplishments. I'm proud of the number of things that I was learning throughout this whole month-long process, and I'm happy with the results. I know it can go faster, and we will definitely revisit this car as soon as possible because I really do think there's more in it. My thanks to all the competitors who I was in this challenge with, and my thanks to Josh as well for his guidance along the way. He didn't help me in any real physical way, but he did mentally help me, and that was a big push. And also, of course, thanks to Vanquish for allowing us to do this crazy monthly mayhem. This has been a lot of fun. If this is something you're interested in, be sure to check out the rest of the monthly mayhems that we've done. I will put a link to the playlist right up here so you can check them all out. Have you ever tried doing something that wasn't the initial intention with an RC? Post a comment down below. You know I love reading through your feedback, and I try to answer as many of them as I can. And if you enjoyed this video and you like What's on the Bench Weekly in this format, hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so you get updates anytime we do something stupid with an RC car. That's going to do it though. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again next week.